Hey there, ATS fans. My copy of Kohima is finally in the house. Counter delays and such made it take a little while, but hey, here we are. Gonna do a Battlefield Walkaround on it. Hope you enjoy it. Just this quick reminder, the ATSFE Battlefield Walkarounds are intended to just kind of give you an overview of what comes in a module. Counters, maps, is there vassal support, that kind of stuff. Give you a feel for that. To start off, so the historical situation is it's called ATS Kohima Operation C, 1944. It's the battle on the outskirts of Kohima. The Japanese are attacking, the British are defending. It's 1944. It's been, I guess the battle has called the Stalingrad of the Burma War, which is interesting. Not in scale, clearly, because there just weren't that many dudes, but it's more the ferocity and brutality of the fight, I suppose. Anyway, according to the Battlefield Walkaround that comes in the module, that this really depicts two parts of the offensive, or two phases rather. So April 4th through 19th, 1944, and then a little bit later on in May of 1944. So what you're going to get in the module, you're going to get 6 map panels. We'll take a look at those later. You're going to get 3 counter sheets, 1 Commonwealth infantry, 1 Japanese infantry, and then 1 combined Japanese and Commonwealth heavy weapons and AFVs and other large markers. Now you get 1 AFV card for the grant, which does show up in 1 scenario. Speaking of which, you get 9 scenarios on, 4 cards, I guess? 5 cards, which makes sense. Most of the scenarios, well, we'll talk about those later, and of course you get the Battlefield Walkaround. There is not any VATS support, VATS support as of yet. We'll see whether that comes along. As far as I can tell, you get the combat counters you need. One thing in the Battlefield Walkaround that talks about are these cleared fire zones. It does say 1 CFZ markers provided for each cave pillbox provided in the Japanese OOD. That's not entirely true. Actually, it's not true at all. I didn't find any CFZ markers at all. So, not sure what they mean by that. I think I did see some before in some other product. I'll have to take a look at that. But otherwise, as far as I can tell, you get all the combat counters that you need to play, including obviously some extras that probably don't see any action, but that's okay. This is kind of the nature of the deal, right? From a scenario standpoint, like I said, you get 9 scenarios. Most of them are smaller portions of the map, which is good, I suppose. 2 of them do use the entire map, although 1 is not actually that big in terms of number of units, and the other one is a little bit larger, obviously. But otherwise, they look pretty all manageable from 6 turns to the big one, which is called Garrison Hill, is 16 turns, which is actually not that long if you think about it in terms of some other modules that have come out. So it looks like a pretty manageable product. Not a lot of special rules, mostly around OBA, off-board artillery, that kind of stuff. Looks pretty good from that standpoint, very playable. As far as the counters go, a couple of things. So there's nothing really super exciting on any of the counters. One thing to note is the colors change a little bit for the Commonwealth counters. No, that's just a printing thing. It's not that big of a deal. But you can see here you get a whole bunch of Commonwealth infantry counters. Not sure what happened. The Japanese are a weird burnt orange now. So, they're clearly going to be Kohima specific, I suppose, as opposed to the other color pro-Japanese counters, which have gone through a couple of iterations anyway. But there you go. Take that as you will. But like I said, you get all the ones that you need to play. It doesn't really matter what the color of the counter is. So let's move on. Let's talk about the map a little bit. See if we can get up here. Like I said, it's 6 map panels. You already know my feelings on map panels, funnily enough. And the Battlefield Walkaround right there. Also, matching up the panels will be easy based on the high IQ expected of the user base of ATSers. So somebody's listening to complaints and doesn't care. Not necessarily wrong that you can match them up. It's just a pain in the ass, and you know, why make me work for that? But whatever. As you can see, it's pretty interesting looking map as far as I can tell. So you might see these little gray pieces over here. That's just the color that was chosen because that terrain is -3 or -30. So it's going down, right? Because this is the ridge up. So it just gets gray as you get down in there. There's no special, that I could find, consideration that the fact that it's gray. The woods depiction is all jungle, elephant grass, palm trees, brush is bamboo. You might have seen from earlier on that CFZ, you can create these cleared fire lanes and kind of just pop those down. Got some wood buildings at the top of this hill here. Level 40, looks like, level 4. Oddly enough, there is a tennis court right there. Sorry about the shadow and the glare, but there's a tennis court. Specified in there as clear ground in the Battlefield Walkaround. Otherwise, it looks like a really close-in knife fight, considering all the jungle and you know, here's the top of the jail hill, or I'm assuming this is also Garrison Hill, but you know, looking down across everything else. But you know, it looks like it's going to be pretty cool from that aspect. Be fun to play, I think. The Battlefield Walkaround itself, there's a couple issues with it. So one is this thing on pillboxes, right? So it's a cave dugout marker with cave/pillbox. Treat this as a form of emplacement, fine. 9.6.6.61 entry restrictions apply, but treat as 9.4.8 for all other purposes. Okay, that's fine. I mean, there are rules in the rule book for cave dugouts and what have you. Here's where it gets interesting, is you don't get those markers. So I'm assuming you just use regular cave dugout markers. The 9.6.6.1 restrictions state that only Japanese personnel can enter. So the big problem is most of the scenarios give the cave dugout/pillbox markers to the Commonwealth player. So, you know, obviously you're going to have to figure that out, but my guess is it really means that only the side that is in them can use them. So beyond that, the other interesting rule was this pregame bombardment rules. I think I only saw one scenario, maybe two, that had it. It's fine. The rule itself is fine, except of course that in it says, where is it? When available, the American player places a CFF. That's great, except of course this is Kohima. There are no American players available. That's fine. You obviously, just a misprint, meant Commonwealth. Probably lifted that from some other module or whatever. So that's good. One thing interesting, ordnance leaders. All leaders may be treated as ordnance leaders. That means you can use your leadership die roll when you're trying to hit with an H weapon, which is not according to the rules, or not normal according to the rules, right? So on the HPT, you can only use leadership modifier for a light or medium weapon firing on the A1, A2, or A3 tables. So other than that, you know, the normal stuff. My particular version came with scenario 3 and 4 for the ASL version, so I'm sure critical hit will fix that up, but you can tell by the leaders, right, and the counters. But you know, I could do the translation, but I'm sure critical hit will send me the updated scenarios at some point. Other than that, that's Kohima. Can't wait to get it on the table and start pushing counters around. Thanks for hanging out with ATSFE.